The Nightona 5000 track immediately impresses Grizz as a state-of-the-art location for the Deathvale races. Unlike the older track on Yaziloshan that weaved and cycled through the towering monolithic colony skyscrapers and through dark, toxic smog clouds above the Skrull factories, the track on Dauphine is built over the ocean. When the rails looped back over land, they looped over a boardwalk and through the center of a huge Ferris wheel before returning out to the ocean and descending beneath the water through glass tubes. A great U-shaped stadium is built partially on land and partially over the ocean on a platform. Huge hollow screens hovering in the open air cycle between images of the different Deathvale rockets at the starting line, different food locations throughout the stadium, and different corporate sponsors. Because Deathvale originated in PMAX space, all the sponsors that Grizz sees on huge advertisements are recognizable to him as products he's used in the past. The last image that flickers past before he walks into the central betting hub is one of a smiling Bland Lately cracking open and drinking a Megasurge soda. Inside the hub,
What?
Grizz walks into a veranda with comfortable pale blue couches and chairs over a dark purple carpet. Running along the walls are beautiful huge potted plants, and from the ceiling a massive chandelier dangles. Tourists and locals both move throughout the room, talking amongst each other, placing bets at automated machines, and speaking directly with stadium betting officials at their kiosks. As he saunters up to a group of central scoreboards, Grizz sees that a huge myriad of bets are available. Which rocket wins, which pilot scores the most damage on another rocket, which rocket breaks down first, how many rockets will be destroyed, how long the race takes, how long the fastest pit stop takes, and more. Along each bet, there's an over-under number on what the betting percentage forecast is. The second scoreboard lists the 25 Deathvale racers that have been officiated for the race. The first rocket he looks for is Megasurge, hoping that his old crew might be here and he can see a familiar face, but he's not that lucky. The pocket whiskey purchased to go along with his morning coffee empties as Grizz takes a final swig from the bottle and tosses it into a nearby trash vaporizer.
He's going to make a bet on who wins the race for sure. Definitely how many rockets are destroyed and which one breaks down first.
Okay. So what is his bet for who wins out of the 25? Because he sees like all of the different, there's like 24 different like corporation names, and then he sees the like Kavendon Royal. Like, so it's like that's the 25th. So without metagaming and knowing that Roz is in this fucking thing, who does Grizz bet on?
All right, yeah, Stellar Horse. He's gonna bet $5,000 on them winning. He's gonna bet at least 15 go down, another $5,000. I'm gonna put the Kavendon Royal on that one.
Okay.
It leaves me 9,950 by my calculation.
So 30K on that one. All right. So once Grizz has finished betting, purchasing and collecting what he needs to, does he buy any smokes or drinks or snacks or?
He'll just grab a beer at the concession stand, like a big one.
Just one?
2.
Okay. So after he gets his 2 beers, he goes and, sort of starts looking for his seat. Go ahead and roll an observation. Go ahead and describe how Grizz finds his seat, where the seat is in the stadium, how good it is, and how crowded the area is around him.
He roams around for a little bit, sort of confused, like he can't figure out where he's supposed to sit. He gets redirected by a few security guards, and then he's kind of like finds that he's like in the mid-range seats. Not great, not bad, but just eh.
Okay. So go ahead and drop another 500 off of his U-creds, because these based off of inflation. You know what? Go ahead and drop another 1,000 off of his U-creds for the seat. With still about a half hour to go before the race begins, Grizz watches as the crowd slowly begin to fill into the seats over time. Only a few minutes after Grizz has taken his seat, three very large pale-skinned men fill into the empty seats next to Grizz. As they bypass him, each gives Grizz a small little simple nod. He can see that they're all carrying buckets of 8 beers each. Both men are wearing Deathvale hats and t-shirts and of the teams that they're supporting, and none of the teams are supporting or anyone that Grizz bet on. So once seated, the man closest to Grizz nods at him and goes, Hoping for a good race today, before putting the largest pinch of tobacco behind his lip that Grizz has ever seen in his life.
Good God. He just kind of like looks at him and is like, how you doing, buddy?
And guy looks back at Grizz and he goes, hey, I'm not too bad. How about you?
I've been better. What's your name?
Dale. This is Bert. This is Shane. And the man next to Dale, who looks similar enough to Dale to be his brother, nods at Grizz. And Shane just kind of like doesn't really say anything.
Name's Grizz. Nice to meet you.
You too. You don't look like you're from around here. You long hauling too?
Yeah, something like that.
Hey man, I feel for you. You got to take the time when you can get it right. We've been running from Gloria for seems like forever. I had the whole ship smelling like feet for months. Got to squeeze what we can from this place before we get back out to it.
It's a pretty fun place.
And reaching over to steal some popcorn from the tub between Bert's legs, Dale says, "Give me some of that." Before turning to look at Grizz as he stuffs the handful into his mouth. So you here for the speed, or you got some bets running?
I got some bets running.
Who you put the money down for?
Well, I'm keeping that a secret. Keep things friendly.
He's you ain't no fun. You ain't no fun.
I can be, but no one wants to see that.
Well, I'm voting for Cargill Shells. And Shane's like, ain't no way Cargill Shells is losing. They just completely rebuilt their rocket with a new design team from Tussle Forge. I saw a vid on the Hexen out of them working on it, and the damn fucking thing goes. And the other guy's like, yeah, it do.
Any of you guys bet on Stellar Horse?
And they all kind of look at him, and they're like, whoa, why the fuck would you bet on Stellar Horse? That thing hasn't pulled higher than 4th place in the last, 10 races. They barely made it onto this docket.
That's not necessarily bad, man. The underdog, if they win, you get big payout.
I mean, you got to have some big balls to bet on the underdog like that in a race like this. There's some serious contenders out there. Stellar Horse is going to have to basically pull a miracle out of their ass if they're going to win.
What can I say? I'm feeling lucky.
Well, hopefully you're not in for some hurt today, sir.
Hopefully not. I've had enough of that shit lately.
So, what does Grizz do over maybe, the next half hour as he's kind of sitting there with these guys, keeping himself occupied while he waits?
He's just sort of drinking and smoking, just kind of shooting the shit with them. Just talking about, the races and mechanic stuff.
These guys are space truckers. I mean, he doesn't they don't go into too much details about, a lot of shit, but, it's very clear to Grizz that, they're just kind of blue-collar fucking dudes. Yeah. So, really high above the waters of Dauphine, Karina, Calypso, Torn, and Calypso's 2 security officers lounge in one of the many private elite pay boxes hovering above the water on jet thrusters. There's, a big window overlooking the sort of stadium, and you can kind of see that track 2 picture where you're looking down on everything, and the room has a bar tended by a Dauphine local. It has 2 long purple couches that sit up against an entire wall-length window that gazes down to the spectacle below. Karina sees a huge collection of crowds filling into the stands of the stadium as the first few Deathvale rockets are moved towards the starting line. Seeing the vehicles, she can't help but think back to their brief time on Yajalosin and the battle waged between herself and Bobby against Squab on the fucking Deathvale track. For the briefest of moments, the android's glowing red eyes settled into her memory strong enough to begin fading her view of the bright, sunny, cloudless Dauphine sky. She's shaken from her oncoming daze, however, when Calypso asks, "Did you have fun flying with Cadmus earlier? He was so excited to hear that's something you enjoyed doing. It's all he talked about last night." The young Cavindian princess approaches with 2 soda sticks, one for her and one for Karina, as well as a popcorn tub filled with boxes of chocolate candies. After handing Karina one of the soda sticks, Calypso sits down on one of the purple couches and gazes out of the window towards the tracks.
Yeah, it was great. We had a good time. Did you have fun with Raz?
It's neat that the 2 of you can share interests, but not so much. I'm sure that with you and Cadmus that it'll be better. Sharing interests and getting along and actually enjoying the time you spend with each other. I'm sure that's important in a marriage. I can't imagine that your future nuptials will go well otherwise.
What? Wait, what?
Wait, you didn't know? How did you not know? The two of you are betrothed, Karina. Come on, you knew. You're messing with me.
Well, according to who?
Wait, you're joking me, right? This is a joke? They really told you nothing about this when you were adopted?
You're gonna have to be more specific.
Oh, you're being serious. Wow. Okay, I really thought you knew. I thought this whole trip was about the two of you meeting each other for the first time. All right, this is awkward. So, okay, this is how I understand it. And she, like, sips her, like, soda, realizing that, like, she's telling Karina this. Like, a long time ago when my dad was still friends with Vasily and me and Cadmus were babies, they made some kind of agreement to further unite the power of our two worlds. And Vasily's daughter, Alea, and Cadmus, upon reaching their 18th birthdays, were to wed. I only ever met her once on Odessa. She was really nice. And I think we were 7 or 8, but she talked about fairies a lot and really loved the jungle. And she thought Cadmus was funny. They really liked each other. Cadmus was really sad after she passed away. There had been a brief discussion within my father's council when the Lord of Gold took in that freakish brute, Alexei, as his ward, that the roles might be reversed for him and me when I turn 18, but father refused. Can you imagine? That man's a barbarian. Ugh, no. So, at last year's Sandor, when the three of you were announced to the public, our father told Cadmus that you would be taking Elie's place. That one day you would be the wife to a king of both Delphine and Odessa. I mean, think of all the power you'd have. Cadmus has no interest in ruling. He's got his head too buried in his stories.
So you're saying that your father announced this to you. Do you know of Vasily agreeing to it?
She's like, well, my father's a very diligent man. If the deal was in place, I'm sure that it would extend. He wouldn't have told me otherwise. I mean, I've been so excited to meet you. We get to be sisters.
Torn walks up with a couple of plates of food and he like sits one down in front of Karina and he looks at Calypso and he's like, what can I get you?
And she like kind of looks down at like all of the food that she had brought over earlier and she's like, I think we're good here.
He's like, you sure? You don't need a drink, you don't need a refreshment, Karina? And he like finger guns towards her a little bit.
No, Karina says we're good, Torn.
And then Torn, he like lets his like the facade of that persona he just put on drop like immediately, and he like walks away silently, but just within earshot.
As he walks away, like Karina watches as like Calypso just like smiles back at her and like stuffs a handful of chocolates in her mouth as she's just kind of like looking at Karina. And like, what is Karina thinking and her feeling in this moment?
We're both like awkwardly eating. Karina is feeling like she just needs to talk to Vasily about it. Like she's not really sure about taking this chick's word for it, but she's kind of like, obviously the agreement just in general was kept from her. How much freaking time did she spend with Marquitha and like hearing about the family and all that stuff? So she's kind of like irritated that she's taking it more as like an affront of like not being trusted than distaste for the action of it, because that's like so far from her mind, because she needs like proof that it's supposed to happen before she can even contemplate that this is like a real thing.
Can Torn roll observation to tell if Calypso is lying to a conversation that's not involved with him?
100%, yeah.
There's always powers at work doing things that he is not aware of or understands. He's like so deeply aware of that. And when he hears this, his first instinct is skepticism.
There is absolutely no tell that Calypso is giving to give him any kind of airs to assume that she's making this up. She fully believes this.
Yeah, so Torn is kind of just like watching for Karina's reaction, but he's not going to try and make any, I guess, interruptions unless she somehow indicates.
I mean, she might like glance over at Torn because him coming over to interrupt her, she knows that he's like creeping. But that kind of like, even that was like insult to injury. Like, does no one trust me to handle things? Even though he didn't mean it like that. Obviously, like she's just like, mostly the overwhelming feeling that she has right now is just like she's just irritable, and so she's trying to.
She had that nightmare the night before.
She did. So she's kind of trying to like keep her composure because part of her and like her royal training, she knows that she can't pop off on Calypso, and there would be no reason to because it's not like her fault.
Yeah.
So she's just trying to come up with something to say while Calypso eats chocolate.
So this is a very real thing, and it is a massive bomb that just got dropped.
Yeah, for sure. So she's like, I hope you don't feel awkward about telling me this.
Well, honestly, I do. I believed that you knew. Are you all right? I mean, if you're hearing about this for the first time, I mean, it's a good idea.
I think there are advantages to tying our houses together.
I mean, I know Cadmus likes you. Besides, I mean, from the moment I saw you, it's clear that you're interested in power. You walked into that banquet the other night wearing that dress. I mean, it was a statement. You clearly want to be queen.
Damn. Holy shit. Okay.
And it's not like you'll get to do it on your planet. It's Alexei's in line, right? So, if anything, you'd be ruling Kavinda.
You've given me a lot to think about. You know, forgive me for my sudden inability to articulate myself. I will have to talk to my father, and if I were to have a sister, I would be happy for it to be you.
And she goes, I'm sure he'll clear everything up.
Should we take our seats?
Well, she looks through the binoculars and she's like, oh, I see it. There they are. They're loading up on the tracks now. Do you think they're going to win? Ross seems like he's pretty good at fucking everything.
She's so salty. Yeah, I have no idea. I wouldn't put it past him to try to grab the controls at some point and veer him off the track because he thinks he knows better than the driver.
The second the race starts, they're like watching from a distance and they see all 24 cars rocket off and one explode.
Grizz would win his bet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Torn, after hearing that she thinks Raz might actually try and grab for the wheel, he looks over to whatever their liaison is for the skybox. He's like, that the cockpits are separate, right? The first seat is separate from the second seat, right?
And the guy nods back at Torn.
And he's like, okay. And then he's like looking down at the crowd and he's
goes,
like,
but they do have access. They have their own wheel just in case the pilot in the front gets knocked unconscious or there's some kind of damage to the vehicle. Yes.
Yeah, and then Torn just kind of like, you see like him just start sweating. And he like looks down through the binoculars and he's like, can I radio the team?
And he's like, you'd probably have to head down there to talk to them. I mean, like the pit crew's like clearly down there on the thing.
And that's readily accessible because we're rich enough kind of thing?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so like Torn goes over to Karina and he's just like, I think I'd like to ensure that Raz is going to have the most safe possible journey. Realizing that I may have put him in a position that may not be beneficial to all of us. If it's okay with you, Princess, I'd like to take my leave and ensure Raz is safe here, as I am sure you are in the skybox.
I don't think you should be so hard on yourself. I think he's probably okay with the driver, but by all means.
And then he kind of like bows to her for the first time. He's never done that before. He's just like feeling like extra royal. She's feeling like she's extra royal after this conversation. He bows to her and he makes his leave to try and get to the pit crew as fast as possible.
And there's like a little pod that he takes that like it's like a little elevator floater pod that like hovers down to the stadium. And it it takes him maybe like roughly about 15 minutes to get down there. But like I said, there was 30 minutes before the race began because this is all kind of happening at the same time as Grizz taking his seats and all that kind of shit. So down on the track, Roz and Ferdinand von Schuth are both now decked out in green and purple flight suits provided to them by the Bukovinians rocket pit crew. Torn stands at the front of the rocket, checking the engine along with the other pit crew members. Roz notices the official pilot, Ferdinand von Schuth, standing at the back of the rocket with his arms crossed, looking at Roz and like basically like whispering to one of his pit crew, like just clearly pissed off at the situation that he has to do this. That's the Death Veil rocket. And when Roz sees that Ferdinand's looking at him, he's surprised when the older man violently spits on the ground between the pair of them and stares daggers at the boy. At the head of the rocket, Torn closes the hood and wipes grease from his hands as the nearby crew chief nods toward Ferdinand and says, and he's saying this to Torn, I guess they say, and it's loud as shit, I guess what they say is true. If you're rich enough, you can get pretty much whatever you want. Eyeing Torn nervously, he continues, might not have been my money that went into rebuilding this beast over the last few months into the predator that it's become, but it was my time and effort. So please tell the boy, whatever he does, don't wreck it. At least give the real pilot dignity of racing his own rocket and not causing any problems with your royal games. And then he kind of walks away from Torn over with the rest of the pit crew to manage what they need to manage.
Is Raz just standing there? Like what state of mind is Raz in after he watches the pilot spit?
Raz is he's getting to a point in his life where he's kind of used to the fact that no one likes him when he first meets him at this point, because it's every single person he's ever met. So he's stretching and just sort of psyching himself up for the race. And he's stretching out, making sure that he's nice and limber, that his reflexes are not going to get jammed up. And seeing Torn walking up, he's like, "Hey, big guy, what are you doing?"
And then
I thought you were with Karina up at the top of the lane.
And Torn being completely bemused of the amount of noise that is coming at him. He actually kind of brushes it aside. He doesn't actually seem all that friendly as he walks up to Raz, and he approaches him and he kind of kneels down. He's just like, "How are you feeling?"
I feel fine. I'm not exactly sure what the co-pilot does in the race. I know that the main pilot would be steering. Does that mean that I operate any of the machinery for shooting down the competition?
Yep.
Yeah. And then Torn just kind of looks at him. He's like, I think you're just messing with me now to say that you don't know, because you wouldn't have gotten into this race if you didn't know what the secondary pilot did. Correct?
Nah, I'm just joshing.
I thought so. So he puts one hand on Raz's left shoulder and he kind of leans in and he's like, "Look, this is something that we, because you are as great as you are at convincing people that your ideas are fantastic, that we're going to be doing. And you need to know that everything you do in this race represents Odessa. And if you mess this up in any way, which Raz, you can't mess this up, buddy. You cannot cost us any money, and you have to come back alive. Do you understand?"
What if I cost us a little bit money, but I have to come back alive?
And then
just what if? And also, I'm not the pilot. I'm not responsible for this rig. I'm just the guy riding next to the pilot.
Yeah,
it's kind of like having this high-speed chauffeur, don't you think?
Yeah, Torn kind of like smirks a little bit. He's like, look, you're supposed to be able to take care of his back, make sure that he gets where he needs to go as fast as possible. And I think you have that in you, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, I should. I've run through the simulators for flying actual ships quite a bit, but I don't have any real practice on a real machine other than that bubble. You remember? And that
she chuckles. He's like, yes, but you're not going to be jumping on the pilot controls to try and take over this, are you? And he kind of motions to the fucking gargantuan ship next to them.
Well, I didn't steal the pilot controls last time. I was the only one who could do it.
Yeah, it definitely didn't stop you from trying, did it? And he kind of like chuckles.
No, it did not stop me from trying.
Yeah, exactly. So,
do you have any tips or tricks or any inspiration you could give me to?
Yeah, as he's talking, like Torrance like kind of like looking down at his chest because he's more concerned about Raz's mental health than he is worried about what Raz will do because. He's kind of noticed that Raz doesn't ever do anything that actually puts himself in direct jeopardy unless he's actively making a chaotic choice for himself. But I think he knows that Odessa is important to everyone here and that Raz will respect that. But as Raz asked for the advice, Torn goes, look, I've never done a death fill race, but I do know one thing. And let's reconstruct what we talked about on that beach earlier, right? It's not you versus
women win.
It's not you versus he chuckles. He's like, it's not you versus women, but you versus them. And you're gonna win. You're gonna win this race.
You mean don't let anyone win?
Don't let anyone win, Raz. This is the one time in your life that will work exponentially well for you if you take that as your one truth. Yeah, he takes the patch from the flight suit of his roving dawn and he places it in Raz's flight suit pocket. And he's like, "You've got all of us behind you."
Raz touches the patch in his pocket, and then looks back up at Torn, and just gives him like a big smile, and like goes, "Thanks, I needed that."
Yeah, so we fist bump, and then the second thing I want to do is I wanted to go talk to the crew chief.
Okay, so as Torn walks off to talk to the crew chief, Raz sees that
Ferdinand.
Raz's eyes go wide upon seeing how expensive and fancy and clean everything inside the rocket is. Whenever he would sneak down to the races on Yajalosan, Raj would encounter rockets that were infinitely dirtier and older than this one. From behind him, Cadmus shouts over the roar of the crowds as he yells from a nearby railing, and he's like, "Raz, Raz!" and he's waving at him 30 feet away.
Yeah, Raz feigns looking around for the voice, and then looks directly at Cadmus and waves.
And he goes, "Come here!"
Raz trots up.
And when he gets closer, he goes, "I can't believe you're doing this!"
I know, it's crazy. Thanks so much for setting this up. I've only ever seen these on TV. Or in person, but at my dad's place.
So Cadmus is wearing a big green foam hat in the shape of a Death Veil rocket, and in purple letters it's written "Kavinda rules." And the young prince tosses a bottle of water to Raz before drinking it, and he's like, "God, it's so hot here, too bright."
It's not too bad. At least it's not, crusty.
He's like, "Good luck out there."
Definitely. I can't wait till later. We're doing this, then we're going to the park, right? And then the play. Are you getting psyched?
He's like, "I'm fucking psyched. Are you fucking psyched?"
I am pretty fucking psyched, my friend.
And the pair do a fist bump, and as that's happening, and they're just kind of geeking out over how cool the rocket is, what does Torn say when he walks up to this crew chief?
"I know this isn't ideal. I know you don't want this kid there. And listen, your pilot definitely doesn't want this kid there. But look, if you bring him home safely, we'll be off your back and you'll never see us again."
And the pilot of the car, Ferdinand Van Schuth, looks over at him and he's like, as long as the kid doesn't cause any problems, I'll get him to the end of the line."
Yeah, so Torn kind of like looks at him. He's like, "Listen, nothing but respect from one pilot to another. Everything you do here is extreme, and it's something that I am in honest awe of. What I would love to see out of you is point blank, just bring him back. And listen, we'll try and make this go as good for you as possible. And listen, there's some crazy political shit happening right now, and if this kid comes back in one piece." And we get that ship back in one piece, things are going to go really well for everyone. So honestly, from one person to another, from one pilot to another, let's get him home.
And he looks at Torn and he goes, "Give me the dignity of believing I'm going to win."
And then Torn's like, "Listen, with this luck and this chaotic good kid, there's no way you can't."
And he thinks about it and he's like, "I'll do my best."
And then Torn shakes his hand. And Torn shakes the crew chief's hand. And he goes, "Yep."
And the pilot, Ferdinand von Schuth, this is the first time Torn has ever shaken the hand of someone whose hand was equally the size as his.
Oh, shit. I love that. Yeah, so Torn's like, our respect runs deeper than I think either of us knew, huh?
All right, so eventually, speakers floating all throughout the stadium and pavilion. And did Torn head back up to the skybox?
Yeah, he can't do shit at the pit crew, so yeah.
Okay. So, eventually, speakers floating all throughout the stadium and pavilion kick on to project the voices of, "Welcome, one and all, to the inaugural Nightona 5000 Death Veil race." The crowd explodes in excitement, shaking the grounds. Looking around, Roz realizes that all the other pilots have begun entering their two-manned rockets. And in this moment, what does Ferdinand von Schuth walk up to Roz and say?
So Ferdinand walks up to Raz and he's like, "Now listen, child, I have a feeling you are probably quite well aware of the death race, yes?"
Oh my God.
Never mind. We don't have time for this.
Saying, man.
He literally just ignores him. And he's like, listen. You, and he points at the second pilot seat. He's like, "You up here, please."
All right. Thank you.
And then as Raz is getting in, he's like, he like walks up behind Raz, like uncomfortably close. And as Raz like settles into the pilot seat, he's like, "Okay, start asking questions. I want to know what looks like something you understand and what looks like something you do not understand. Let's solve these questions right now so that we don't deal with this when we're in the sky."
All right. Do I recognize the controls at all?
Baby, you are a 9 pilot and your comtech is good. So I'm sure you recognize quite a bit, but let's see what he recognizes and what he doesn't, and then I'll fill in the gaps of what he doesn't.
Do I
do a piloting check?
Also, Roz did, because there was Death Veil on his home colony. So he did sneak down there. We have established, we've talked about it a couple in the past.
Oh, he's got legacy
down there. So he has taken a peek at these kinds of things before. So the two of you, I'm not going to impose anything. This is just
so we don't need to do rolls. All right. So after asking those questions, what does Raz say? Because you pretty much know everything.
Raz looks through and he's like, "Well, these are the speed and direction controls. That is the speedometer. Is this button here for armaments?"
And then he's like, "Yes, okay. This is what I expected you to know. So you understand the basics of velocity, trajectory, positioning. What we need you for is defense. If you can make sure that no one comes anywhere near me, then we will get home and take the gold."
"Oh, we've got this. We're taking gold today. We're not allowed to let anybody else win."
Yes, this is a good ideology. I don't know who taught you this, but I think you are on the right path. What's that?
I think you could see him from here. You see that monolith in the distance?
he like looks in the general direction that Raz is, and he just like kind of like shakes his head off. He's like, listen, we have a race. Everyone's getting into the vehicles. I need you to understand that, listen, I'm going to make sure you get home safely. If you can make sure no one touches my back, listen, little one, listen. If you do well and you keep everyone off my back, I will let you do the final stretch. I will turn over the piloting controls to you, and you will be able to bring us home and get the
gold.
Get the gold, exactly. Okay, I think we have, how do you say in English?
An accord?
I think we have an accord. I think you know who I am, and now I need to know who you are. And he sends his hand.
I'm Prince Raz Vasilyevich.
He's like, no, you are good luck. And then he jumps over into the first seat.
Oh, okay. I've never been called luck before.
After the pair enter the rocket with Ferdinand in the front piloting seat and Roz in the rear as the ambient pilot focused on weaponry, the seal above them closes, quieting the roar of the crowds outside.
Ferdinand runs through some checks. He's like, okay, engine 1, check. Engine 2, check. Okay, let's check our armaments. In my opinion, they should probably not be lethal, but they're all really brutal defense tactics.
Once the rocket is engaged, Ferdinand pulls it up into line behind the other 19 racers waiting for their go-ahead to enter the Magna Rail line.
I think, I bet you they probably have what F1 pilots have, where there's an ability to see each other in each seat, and then Ferdinand kind of like looks behind, and he's like, "Look, I know you saw me speed. That's how you say it, right? But listen, I had the chat with your commander, or what security guard, that the big man." Yes, and what I would say is I'm surprised how much conviction he had for you, and he taught me some form of understanding how we came to this place. And listen, what I would say is I think we're going to do extremely well together, so long as you trust me and I trust you. And listen, I trust you.
All right. I trust you. We've got this, man.
And then he like puts his fist behind him, like in a fist bump motion, and he's like, "Then let's bring home the gold." And he powers everything on.
And a lead rocket descends from a skybox and attaches itself to the Magna Rail track in front of all of you, followed by every other rocket. Soon, the leader rocket begins to move forward slowly, carrying all the other rockets behind it out of the stadium, out over the water. And inside the private elite box, Torn, Karina, and Calypso hear the announcers talking. 29 drivers attempting to make the race, but only 29 drivers attempted to make the race, but only 25 were able to qualify. Let's have a look at the starting lineup for the Nightona 500. 20 cars deep now. We see our 21st coming in there. That's Dylan Austin in his 6th race, having scored 3rd in the last 2, while Martin Gale there on the outside in the Exxon rocket for his 9th race with 3 wins this season. Of course, the talk of the race so far has been the removal of the secondary rider behind Ferdinand von Schuth and the Covindian Royal Team. The name we've been provided for the racer who has taken the secondary place is not given. That's going to be a dark horse for sure. And like back inside the rocket, Ferdinand and Roz watches like 3 red lights appear on the dash before them. And like suddenly the first turns green, and far ahead of them the first tier of rockets launches off at insane speed. Out over the ocean, like 300 miles an hour. When the second light turns green, another collection of rockets goes like. And when the third light turned green, Ferdinand hits the fucking gas. So the rocket is just like, and like you guys are number 22 in place. So there are 22 of these Death Veil rockets, and so everyone is clear. You are on a track, but the track has all of these individual magnet rails. They're called magna rails. So there's like multiple magna rails on this track, and you can move the Death Veil from magna rail to magna rail. So it's like lanes basically on a highway. So there's 3 magna rail tracks, and they all head out. You guys have that picture. The first thing takes them basically like 300. They're rocketing like 300 miles out. They go out over the ocean. Water's just like up around the sides, and they see that car number 24 and 3 start coming up behind them, and like kind of like coming around the edge. And go ahead and the two of you can sort of walk through this. I'm gonna eventually attack you with a couple of other cars.
Okay, so I think as Ferdinand has pressed the foot on the gas, he's speaking in a very calm, measured, pilot-like way, and he checks in with Pilot 2, and he goes, "Okay, not given. Are you in control?" He's referring to the velocitation, like that sonic boom that they just fucking flew through. Like, how are you doing? How's your head?
I'm doing great.
And then he's like, "You have your lungs. You can breathe. Yes."
Yeah, I'm talking. So.
And he laughs. He's like, "I knew you'd be good luck, because humor is always good luck." He's like, "Pay attention to who's coming up on our 6, please."
I see him. What do you want me to do?
He's like, "Okay, watch this." And then he shifts over to the middle track from the left track, and he does it in a maneuver that's pretty quick, pretty fast to do. And he does it right in front of the one that was just trying to creep up over the middle track. He's like, "Okay, you see this?"
Oh, yeah.
And he's like, "Okay, I want you to deploy the rear shield and watch what happens." And so at the nose of let's say we're 22, at the nose of 23, he turns on the shield, which would be a defensive weapon normally, but because he did it so close, it becomes a bumper. And so when Raz turns it on, he bumps the car that's behind him, the track that's the Death Veil racer behind him, back.
He's kind of speechless. He's like, "Okay, I think I get it now."
He's like, "Excellent. Don't let anyone near us." And then he shifts over to the right track and he puts on some speed.
Both Ferdinand and Roz roll an observation. All right, so Roz and Ferdinand both see that car 25 launches this like pale yellowish goop that flies over their Death Veil rocket to land on the left track right in front of them, like maybe like 100 yards.
"Listen, not given. This is going to hurt, but bear with me." And then he like shifts the car over one track to avoid the yellow goop.
He succeeds.
Yeah, upon seeing the goop and we do the shift, he's like, "How you doing? You okay?"
"Yeah, no, I'm fine."
And then he's like, "Yeah, see,
Do you want me
that
to take
one."
him out?
He's like, "That one," and then he's like, "Oh, you read my mind. What would you like to do?" And he's like hammering on the gas. He's like starting to speed us up. He's like, "We have a lead on them for about, I'd say two car lengths.
At the turn, let's drop the caltrips."
And he's just like, "I like this." And then he makes the turn. He's like, "Okay, you have a window that is arriving in 3, 2, 1.
When Raz deploys the caltrips, set they hit.
You know what? Since they're mag rails, how about the caltrips just like disable the magnetization on that rail for a little while?
Well, I would say that they magnetize to the rail.
Oh.
Yeah. They magnetize to the rail. Exactly. And like, so Raz does it. We'll say it's a ranged combat.
Ranged combat? Yeah. All right. He's been waiting and timing it. So
he also has a +1 because we're both doing this together.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So go ahead and describe how Raz drops these things to essentially disable cars 20, 21, 22, 20.
But we're 22.
20, 21, 22, 24, and 25. So you guys just took out 5 cars, and like I'm talking by takeout, like they're off the rail, off the track, into the water.
Oh
Yeah,
shit!
Raz, upon like seeing how deftly and sharp the pilot's piloting is, and how swift he changes lanes, he was waiting for the moment he felt a shift in the pull of the G-forces pulling them, and as soon as like the faintest hint hit, he knew they were turning, and he started pressing the button, dropping each of the caltrops, which caused them to shift out in kind of a diagonal as they shifted super sharp into the inside lane, which blocked off all of the paths behind them, launching the others off of the side. And after he does that, he turns to the pilot and goes, "And again, my name's Raz."
And Ferdinand, like, he's just like fucking floored. He's like, yes, it is Raz. Let's go. And he's just like so fucking hyped.
You guys are now in 19th place, and in the stands, Grizz watches on his digipad as his bet about how the Cavindian rocket should be the first cargo down is gone. So Grizz just lost 30 grand. In the skybox, Calypso like jumps up and down and claps a little bit and is like, "Yeah!"
Yeah, she's just watching. She's not really, well, I mean, she's like physically has her face pointed to the track, but I don't know if she's like paying attention. I don't think she's
little,
got a lot of mind.
Yeah, she's a little conflicted right now.
Preoccupied.
So then back down on the track, roll another piloting for me. You guys see, so Ferdinand sees up ahead, like this is the first time on this track at all that he's never been on. Maybe like this is a brand new track. This is the very first race of this track.
Oh, that's great. That's cool.
So
like, that's the spice, right? Like that's like the Formula One spice. Like he keeps coming back because he gets challenged in new ways. Okay.
And like he sees maybe like 600 yards up that instead of there being a left or right curve, that the tracks dip down into tubes, like literally going into the water beneath. And it's like a very, very short, he can see there's like a little reader on the dash in front of him that gives like a little 3D layout of like the oncoming track, like of what to do, like so he knows how to turn and stuff. And he sees that it's basically like a I'll say it's like a 76 degree angle that he has to basically cut very, very sharply, or he's going to rocket off the track, continue going forward just out into the ocean.
Okay, so upon seeing, all right, so he's got 2 successes on piloting. So he can see the track, and upon understanding what this gradation is going to be, he's like, "Well, kid, I don't know if you've ever been underwater before, but hold on." And he just like cuts the speed to an appropriate angle to make sure that appropriate speed so that angle is perfectly threaded.
And right as he does so, and you guys dip down below the waves into this fucking glass fucking circular tube that the rail continues on, Raz sees that 3 of the Death Veil racers couldn't make the cut and like all spun wildly out into the ocean, which means that you guys are now in 16th place. And you can see that there is 2 cars ahead of you immediately, and then there's another like further group of cars like way, way down. And as you guys are rocketing down, it's getting darker and darker. Like you could only really see the ocean around you for like a couple seconds because you're moving so fast.
No, it's like we're going deep right now.
Yeah, you guys are deep. It's like pitch. It's near like you cut down. You kind of make your way through this like kelp field, and then it gets really, really pitch black, and the only lights around you guys in this fucking tunnel right now is your lights on the Death Veil pod and the lights of the other Death Veil pods ahead of you guys.
Okay. And I mean, do we have a sense of how far ahead they are versus us?
I mean, they're pretty close. It's like a NASCAR race. So I mean, you're kind of right on them. Yards, not hundreds of yards. Like 15,
and are the tubes
yards.
like big enough that if we bounced one off the track, that they do they explode when we bounce them off a track, or do they have enough room to like, I don't know, get attached to the wall or something?
So I would say that the tube is wide enough that if someone were to get knocked off the track, there would be room for it to tumble.
Okay, cool. Okay, so it's actually huge down there.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Is it a big circular tube?
Yeah, and you guys are running.
We're magnetized, right?
You're magnetized to the rail, running like straight through the center of it.
Okay.
Cool. So I kind of take an assessment of everything. You said there's like 2 or 3 ahead and then 2 or 3 behind as well.
No, 2 or 3. You guys are in 16th place. 15 and 14 are right ahead of you, and then you can see like 13 and beyond, sort of like maybe like 150, 200 yards like further up the track, where it's starting to get lighter again.
Okay. Is it safe to say that the 13 and 14 are like colluding to make sure that we don't get past them?
It's too dark for you to fully tell that, but your little meter reader on the dash shows that they're sort of like running side by side next to each other, like blocking you from moving ahead.
Okay. So, all right. So as we're approaching this sort of little like quiet blockade, like Ferdinand like looks back at the mirror and he looks to Raz and he's like, okay, we're meeting our first wall. How do you want to go by?
Well, we have the shield, right? Why don't we
He's
wait
like,
till the last second, get right up behind him, and just give him a rapid bump?
And then Ferdinand's like, yes, that would work, but only if we can move one off the rail. We need one in the same position to be able to get by. And so Ferdinand moves, he shifts over, like almost like immediately agreeing with Raz's plan. He moves to the center lane of the 3, and then he starts moseying up behind. He's like, you know when to apply it?
Right when we can see the exhaust of their fumes, right?
He just like he nods. He doesn't even say anything, and he's just like, on you. And he slowly ratchets up the velocity as he's approaching. Let's call it car 14 on the middle track, car 13's on the left track or right track, whatever.
And like right as he's like bumper to bumper, like Ferdinand's bumper to bumper with car 14, and like you guys are rocketing down this track, and it's starting to get brighter and brighter and brighter, and then all of a sudden you feel there's like the track starts to head up, like it's getting ready to come out from underneath the water, and like the water around you starts to lighten up, and you can see that there's like coral sort of like around to your left and more kelp around to your right, and then right as you guys get up and like the sunlight starts to crest, walk me through what happens.
Right as we're getting the sunlight is about to crest and we're emerging from the opening of the tunnel, Raz hits the shield that acts like a diagonal wedge that just sort of hits under, peeling the car 14 off of the track, having it spin off into the opening of the tunnel.
And when he does that, it bounces off the wall of the tunnel, arcs up out into the sky, and then just like drops right into the water, like just like right back into the water. And now you guys are directly behind car 13 as you are now zipping further along this path, and you see that like way up ahead of you is this massive, like 300-foot tall fucking loop-de-loop.
Oh, perfect.
And then Ferdinand, upon hearing Raz like mumble to himself, he's like, "Talk to me."
Well, let's shoot some forward caltrops right at the top of the arc.
And then Ferdinand goes,
You're pretty far. If you want that to succeed, you'd have to gun. You'd have to make some space.
Well, like, is there anything that we have?
You're still in last place right now.
Is there any forward projecting?
I think there probably would be, but it probably wouldn't.
We
be
established
like
that one car shot goo ahead of you guys.
Forward, yeah.
So then,
well, I want to try to do the goo. Is the goo like a magnet sludge? Like,
if you hit it, yeah, it's definitely gonna like stick to the car and completely like slow it down and potentially like drag it off course.
Cool. I want to do it as we're riding up the side, hit it with the goo that will slow down its descent, making it impossible for it to make the arc and have them fall off.
So roll piloting. Okay. Describe to me how fucking Ferdinand gets right up behind 14 as you guys start heading up that fucking loop-de-loop, and then walk me through how Raz does everything.
okay, they're not going to let us get to a place where we can get in front of them, but pay attention, listen to your instincts, fire when ready. So as he starts approaching up to 13, he shifts to the left. 13 immediately shifts to the left. Their shield is reversed and pointed towards him. He shifts to the right, and then he starts getting real close to that shield. And 13's like, okay, I know what he's going to do. 13's like, he's either going to go right or he's either going to go left. And then as soon as I get close to being bumped off the track, I shift to the left again, and he shifts to the right. So we're now parallel with him, and I'm like, now!
And Raz, feeling the momentum of the shift going up, aims and fires the goo.
Roll range combat? Oh, yeah. So, because of the nature of this, like, fucking loop-de-loop, it takes a solid fucking engine gun to, like, make it up this. So, because Ferdinand did it so successfully, not only did you guys clear the space up towards 13, but you also cleared the space up towards 12 and 11 as well. So when Roz launches out the goo, describe to me how all three of those cars get stuck on tracks as this car zips, or as this rocket zips
you can
by.
shoot the loop.
We
and they're
as
like
we're going
dangling
up,
basically upside down.
knowing how hard the engines are working just to maintain their speed to go up and over to not fall off the tracks, Raz sort of uses it like short bursts of fire with the goo gun, and like picks off each of them in like a stream, because we cut to the left, so we were on the outermost lane and hit all the inside lanes, catching all three as we continued to speed up past them, and they slowly lost momentum and then fell off at the peak of the arc.
And upon completing the loop, Ferdinand's just like pulling the car around, or pulling the Deathvale Racer around, and he's just like, "Oh my God, you're a better pilot than my normal. Where did you say you came from?" And he's like asking it rhetorically as he like blasts through to catch up to the next group.
I'm from Odessa.
And as Roz says that and Ferdinand guns it, you guys can see that cars 6 through 10 are essentially like right ahead of you, maybe like 200 to 300 yards, coming out onto this like really, really long straightaway headed back towards the stadium and the colony.
He's looking and he's like, okay, this is chess. This has nothing to do with the skill of the pilot. It has everything to do with how we outwit each other. And he's like pointing out the tracks. He's like, look, 1, 2, 3, they have alignment completely across. It is a blockade. How do we get past a blockade? We have to
jump it.
And then Ferdinand's like, he like chuckles to himself. He's like, you've watched yourself quite a few Deathville races, yes. Okay, let's take a look at our stores, our ammo, and let's pick which is the weakest link.
The shield goes 360 degrees around us, right? Couldn't we use it? Couldn't we overhaul it and have it bounce us up while we're in mid-thrust so that we can launch up and over?
And Ferdinand's like looking at himself. He's like, look, this is... And then he's like catching up to the group ahead of them. He's like, listen, this is not safe, but I have seen it done. I've seen it done in practice. And he's like thinking out the math of it, because, you know, as the nature of being a pilot, he has to know just so much geometry. He's like, yes, okay, let me think. Okay, let's analyze. Let's see who's ahead of us. Late Euphrates, I got it. Okay, so Late Euphrates is ahead of us. He's like, listen, okay, I think we're going to hop them, and I'll tell you why. Because I know they had to get serviced, and he's like pulling up. He's like slowly rationing. He's like, I know, because they had to get serviced. I know their crew chief. His sister is my wife, and let's be straight, I will definitely win over my sister. Or over him. And then he like goes over, he moves himself back over Late Euphrates, and he's like, okay, now listen, I'm going to throw the turbo on, and we are going to hop the Late Euphrates. Does this sound good?
This sounds like a fucking awesome idea.
And then he's just like, listen, the shield it's not powerful. It only deflects. So we have to be very careful to make sure this maneuver happens exactly when I say yes.
Of course.
And then he's like,
give me the countdown.
He's like, turn it on and position it to our right.
All right. Raz turns it on, getting ready to have it fully blast, turning and shifts the focus to the right.
And then Ferdinand is like, he's actually gone like a little quiet, and you can kind of see the sweat like pulling on the back of himself because he's never done this maneuver before. He's never seen this track before, but it's a clear straightaway, right?
Oh yeah. You guys are currently on a clear straightaway. There's a couple last minute like really sharp turns, but yeah.
Okay, so he gets up to the late Euphrates, and it's clear that they're stuck because they're in the middle, and there's someone on the left of them, someone on the right of them, and they can't quite outpace them. So as he starts approaching the back of the late Euphrates, he sees their shield pop out, and he's just like, "Don't do it yet." And he's just talking to Raz as he maneuvers himself closer, and he's like, "Okay, I'm going to launch the turbo in 3, 2, and you are going to do the shield in 3, 2, and then he presses 1 to launch the turbo, and then on 0, Raz does what?
Both of you roll your things. You're piloting in your
Ranged combat.
Your close combat.
Close combat.
Oh,
all right.
Because it's armor.
Remember? Oh, he's stressed.
All right. So the shield, Raz manages to deflect 2 damage. But the one like striker blast from the late Euphrates does manage to rock y'all's ship enough that as you land back down on the racetrack, the Deathvale rocket shudders and kind of shakes.
Okay, so
All right, we did it.
As that happens, Ferdinand is just like, it's funny because Raz is like clearly just like, oh yeah, let's just keep going. But Ferdinand's like, I've never done anything like that before.
They fire at you guys again because now you're ahead of them.
Can I shift the shields back to defend?
Yeah, I mean, you definitely got 2 successes, so you can easily push that back. But hey,
we're on a whole new roll now. That was last time.
Wait, can I ask a question though? Because can tracks attack across each other, or can only someone from one track attack forward? Mm-hmm. Okay.
So Raz does fully deflect both of those bolts.
Okay, and then he just he gives an elbow bump because he needs to keep his hand on the controls. But Ferdinand floors it.
Roll piloting.
And can I drop caltrops as their?
I think we need to figure out a limit on those though, because you've only done 1 so far, right?
Yeah, I've only done 1.
All right, how many do you think we have? 2 or 3?
I've probably 3, right?
Yeah, I think 3 is safe.
Okay, so roll his panic, but you also you keep it together. So they got nothing. So you don't knock them off track, but you are now way ahead. So we'll say that you're now in Ferdinand blasted up to 8th place. So he's got.
Well, you said 6 was ahead of us. I remember 6.
Okay, so then you guys are now in 5th place. We'll say you're in 5th place.
Okay. All right. So as we're pulling up to the next group, we can tell that we're near the front of the pack now. And at this point, Ferdinand is moving into his long-term calculation because all these racers that he's been up against for as many years as he's been up against, he has an impression of how they will all operate. All right. So as he's pulling up to the others, he's like, "Listen, these are Kavin the Greats. They are my friends. But I think you will agree with me that they cannot win, yes?"
Yeah, no one else can win. It's only us.
I like the way you think. And he's flooring it. As he's pulling up, what's our terrain looking like in the next, couple exchanges?
You've got 3 basically 90-degree angle, whip sharp turns that you have to take.
Okay. So at this point, he's taking a look and he's like, "Listen, I know Marco with the Silver Dawn. I know he thinks he knows how to make these 90-degree turns, but I know I'm better. So let's get behind Marco because I think we can shift right as he does the 90 degree and pass him expertly. And so he moves up to, what was it, the Silver Dawn? He moves up to the Silver Dawn, and he's anticipating the 90-degree angle. And he's playing 4D chess with the guy who's piloting that one right now.
Roll your piloting to take this first turn. Okay.
You got a lot.
So as you guys whip around that first corner, you watch the Cargill shells fucking rocket just go like way down, and then cut around another corner ahead, and cut around another corner ahead, and disappear. And you see the stellar course ahead of you whip around the first corner and whip around a second corner, and Ferdinand whips around that first corner, and you see that the fourth car definitely just like completely crashes into like one of the walls, like completely misses the corner. The third car also completely misses the corner. So Ferdinand and Roz are now in third place behind the Stellar Horse and the Cargill shells. Roll another piloting.
Should I shoot them when they're turning so that they slow down?
So you guys, Cargill shells is still well ahead of you guys. Like,
and that's place 2.
That's place 1. You guys, so Ferdinand and Roz manage on the third turn, that like third whip sharp turn, to get right up behind Stellar Horse. So you guys are still in third place, but you're directly behind second place.
And then, all right, so Ferdinand, upon clearing the third corner, is actually kind of shocked about their luck. And he's like, listen, I did not expect this. Stellar Horse is a beast. And he kind of like looks back at Raz. And I think Raz can probably tell that his teeth are bleeding a little bit because he grit his teeth extremely through those last 3 turns. And he's like, okay, what are our armaments? What do we have left?
We have a couple goose shots, and we have 2 cow traps.
And then he's like, okay, Stellar Horse is one of the best pilots in the game. If we do not, I'm not sure we can outthink him. He's like, what would you do? What's our terrain looking like for the next exchange?
You've got some like really sharp hills. So like you could essentially...
Like slalom, but like vertical slalom?
Yeah.
Okay. And all right, so as he's talking to Raz, he's like, listen, look, these are the hills. And he like pulls open the map and he's like showing Raz. He's like, listen, I think you may be the one to do it, but listen, if we get to the top of the first hill, the G-forces on that are incredible. They pull us up so bad that I may pass out if I'm not careful. But then when we go into the gully, that means that they will be on the top. Raz, can you shoot them before we make the gully? And he's like just pointing, basically just looking at an illustration of a sine wave. If we're at the top and you're able to shoot across to the next hill before we reach it, then we can switch once they slow down. So the real skill, in my opinion, here is like to figure out what track they're going to be on to shoot the goo. What do you think?
Yeah, let's get them. Get to the inside.
Okay, so it's funny because like he's almost feeling like Raz is a natural pilot, and he just shifts to the inside without even like talking about it. So once he moves to the inside and they start approaching the bunny hills, he's zeroing in on the Stellar Horse. Wait, no, sorry, it's the other one, right?
Stellar Horse, yeah.
Stellar Horse.
Roll for advanced piloting.
Yeah, he's zeroing in on Stellar Horse to set himself up in the right position to be able to do that tactic you just described.
Yep, you beat that fucking roll. So go ahead and Roz, roll your range combat.
Cool. He's gonna aim and shoot it.
All right. So Stellar Horse does, like Ferdinand wasn't lying. Stellar Horse is a beast of a rocket, and whatever Roz fired at it, it does definitely deflect. Reroll piloting.
Jesus.
So after it fucking deflects the shot from Roz, both Ferdinand and Roz watch as Stellar Horse, just this like blue fire just launches out of the back of its afterburner, and it just zips way up ahead. It's got like definitely 400 yards on you guys. It's clearing up right behind second place. So Stellar Horse is immediately behind Cargill. You guys are in third place. Go ahead and roll a piloting, all 3 of them. And there's a corkscrew coming up here.
Let's get the NOS going. We have to blow it now.
Oh my God!
I didn't really
Ferdinand blows the NOS, and describe how you guys clear that fucking gap to get right up behind Stellar Horse and Cargill right before the corkscrew.
Okay, so I think after Stellar cleared the goop, let's say maybe he shot the hill, and I'd never seen that before, and it fucking like infuriated me. So upon him clearing the bunny hills as just serenely as he did, he just tells Raz, he's like, "Hold on, because I've never done this before," and then he throws the Nas while he's going down into the hill, the last hill, to give himself momentum that shoots himself underneath Stellar Horse.
Okay. So as you guys zip underneath Stellar Horse, you're now in second place, and Stellar Horse fires on you guys. Okay.
Right.
So Roz very successfully blocks all of the damage with the armor on the Kavindian rocket. You guys are now in second place, and Cargill Shells is also going to fire on you guys because you are now right behind them.
Can I roll piloting to move away from this?
They missed, but yeah.
Okay.
So go ahead and describe how Ferdinand whips over to. So Ferdinand whips over to like basically the third lane, and at this point, Cargill Shells, Stellar Horse, and the Kavindian Royal Rocket are all basically like neck and neck, and about 800 yards ahead is the fucking finish line. And there's like
800. Oh my god.
800 yards ahead is the finish line with this long fucking straightaway where the three of you are just meant to battle it out. And like well behind you, there's still people coming off of the fucking loop-de-loop. We started with 24 cars. 14 of them have gone off the track. There are currently 9 left. So 6 people are way behind you guys. And then these 3 fucking rockets are like battling it out. So let's all roll a piloting. All right. So as you guys line out all sort of in a row, Stellar Horse takes first place. Cargill is in second place. Ferdinand and Roz are in third place, but it's close. You're not very far behind. You are all close enough that you can battle and defend each other. And since y'all are in third place, it's easiest for you to battle. And if you just tell me who you want to attack.
I want to shoot the first place person with Stellar Horse, because if we can knock them off of their game, then we could take out Cargill with the same shots.
Okay.
And then Ferdinand is like taking a look at the playing, and he's just like, yes, they're going to be dueling quite a bit.
Yeah,
I think this is our chance. And then he sidles himself up to the rear of them while they're battling it out. And then he's like, Raz, whatever you do here, I don't think you need to pilot, but you definitely need to take them out. And he's like, I have your back. And he's just like piloting so cleanly.
All right. Raz aims and fires at Stellar Horse.
Okay. So Stellar Horse deflects damage from Cargill Shells. Oh my god.
Oh, wow, dude.
Stellar Horse also deflects 3 damage from Roz, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Describe how you guys take Stellar Horse out of the race.
Stellar Horse, while it was defending against Cargill Shells, Raz took the opportunity, seeing where the shield was, to shoot on the opposite side, so that they had to deflect their shields from Cargill, which caused them to miss some of the shots of the goo as they were going into that last bits.
And so at that point, when they're busy firing on Stellar Horse, Cargill Shells fires on you guys, and you're unable to defend because you're actively attacking. So your guys take 1 fucking damage, and it knocks you back enough that Cargill is now sort of a good bit ahead, about like 100 yards. Roll piloting. Okay, you are now fucking neck and neck. Even though Cargill Shells knocked you guys back, you're down to about 400 yards from the fucking finish line. Cargill Shells and Ferdinand, neck and fucking neck. Describe to me.
Do we have an impression?
I'm gonna fire on them because we have 1 more shot, right?
One more shot of caltrips or 1 more shot of goo?
We have just the 1 shot of goo.
Okay. So did you say we're neck and neck, Drew?
Yeah, you guys are neck and neck, and they just missed you guys firing.
All right, put us in a lane.
Right lane.
I think.
Well, I mean, there are 3 lanes. We're neck and neck. I figure we're directly next to them, and they're in the middle.
Yeah. Okay. You know what? Oh yeah. Well,
I hit him with 2, and they had just shot, so they didn't have defenses up.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, we're literally we're in 40 chess right now. Okay.
Yeah, you've slowed them down a little bit. You guys are now in first place.
Okay.
And
So
while they're behind us, I'm going to shoot. I'll guess we just finished shooting them, so I guess I can block that shield with the shield, right?
Roll your if you want to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think Ferdinand's like as he's pulling up, he's like, we can't predict what lane they're going to be in. We can't predict what lane they're going to be in. He's like looking at Raz. He's like looking at what was it? What's the name of it? Cargill?
Cargill shells.
Yeah, he's looking at Cargill. He's looking at Raz. He's like, we're not going to be able to predict which lane they're going to be in, and we only had one.
We just blocked. So piloting.
Roll your piloting.
Wait, they attacked us?
Yeah, but
they attacked us, and I blocked it.
Oh shit!
So you need to.
I'm definitely pushing that.
So they sort of they're up ahead.
We push that?
We're about. Yeah,
I'm pushing.
If you want to push it.
Oh, absolutely pushing. This is a massive crowning moment for him. He's definitely going to push. There we go.
That's a tie. Can we caltrop him because we're in front?
That is a tie. That is a tie. You guys are now right next to each other.
But we were ahead of them for a second. So if
they got ahead of you though.
When?
Just right before that. Like right before that, they got ahead of you.
I thought we had just gotten ahead because I had hit him twice.
No, it balanced back out.
Oh.
So if it balanced back out, then you guys just are still right next to each other because
we're
both rolled a fucking 3.
Can I use the shield to bounce them?
Yes, I think I'm like Raz. We cannot predict what lane they're going to be in. We have to take them out now. And he just he doesn't even say it, but he starts piloting into the side of Cargill shells, anticipating that Raz will throw that fucking shield.
Okay. Pushing. So when you guys do that, they fire on you guys and you take 1 damage.
That was me pushing it.
Okay.
Okay.
So you do that, and it definitely knocks them from the middle lane over to the right lane, but they're still neck and neck with you guys.
Oh, so we do need to slow them down still. And then, all right. So at this point, as soon as he pushes them into the right lane, he's like, Raz, they can't go anywhere now. Use the goo. And he's just flooring it with everything that he's got, and he's telling Raz to throw the goo onto their track right now.
All right. So
we're just gonna take that range, isn't it?
I'll shoot the goo as well.
Ranged, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just range to range. So.
Yep. So you guys take 1 damage, but as you guys are taking the damage, Raz launches the goo. And describe what happens when the Cargill Shells car collides into the goo and is off of the track, and you guys become first place and win this thing.
As they're shooting, Raz hearing the abandoned defense go off. The offense is the strongest defense is how he read it. The image of Torn flashes in his mind, and him in the water, patting him on the shoulder, going, nobody else wins. And Raz shot the goo, and it splattered up, covering the screens of the 2 pilots as they careen off of the side, slipping off the rails.
And pretty much 5 seconds after that, the crowd loses their fucking ever-loving mind when the purple and green Cavindian rocket going 300 miles an hour just blasts back through the main center course way ahead of the remaining fucking 6 cars. And over the next 2 laps, this car stays so far ahead of the remaining 6 cars that none of them ever even fucking come close. And at the end of the 3rd lap, Ferdinand wins the race.
I think at the end of the 3rd lap, as they're finally let's say they just crested the bunny hills before the 90-degree turns. He's like, Raz, we could not have done this without you. I'm going to hand you controls. Put your hands on the wheel.
All right, Raz grabs the wheel.
And then as Raz takes control, he's like, listen, all you have to do is drive fast. So after they clear the 90-degree turns and they're in that final straightaway, he relinquishes control of pilot to second pilot, and he goes, it's all yours.
And Raz watches as a whole new section of his dashboard lights up green. Roll piloting.
I'm gonna roll my 1 panic.
What?
It makes sense that he would panic
Yeah,
there,
1,
honestly.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So describe how Raz brings it in, like Tokyo Drift style.
Yeah, Raz, instead of like the instinctive of slowing down, punches faster every single 90-degree turn, getting faster and faster as they're entering the final stretch. It's like, let's set a course record as well.
And Ferdinand at this point is basically just watching the systems to make sure everything's okay. And he's just like, you know what? Let's do it.
And they rocket through, they finish, they succeed. And up in the crowds, up in the stands, staring down at the digipad in his hand that projects the image of his betting sheet, Grizz sees that he lost 2 of his 3 bets. The 2 that he lost are red, and according to the app, he's just lost over 35,000 U-creds. But won 5. So he, I believe, now has 29,000 instead of 49,000. So he lost 20 grand. Sitting next to him, Bert and Dale and Shane all cheer voraciously, chug their remaining beers, and take selfies together to celebrate along with a myriad of hoo-laws. That's how it's done. And like the pair shovels their great wide bodies past Grizz out of the row of seats, and while passing, Bert says, "Hey, at least you made that 10, right?"
Yeah, it could have been a lot worse.
They all kind of wander out down away from the thing, and you hear them talking about how like they're gonna go find the head to go piss and stuff. And what's Grizz thinking and feeling in this moment after losing $20,000?
So how much do I have left, like total?
29,000.
Okay. He's definitely aggravated, but he's not as aggravated as he would have been had he just like straight up lost his ass on that.
Yeah, absolutely. So
it was just kind of like masturbation without the payoff as far as this gambling adventure went for him. He was just kind of like, eh.
Could have been worse.
Yeah.
So
way worse.
What does he do now that the race is over?
Grizz is probably just going to sort of head back to the penthouse, I guess. Try to find something to eat along the way, though.
Okay. So
just kill some time.
So he's just gonna sort of wrap up with the stadium and head out.
Yeah.
Okay. And what does when Roz and Ferdinand sort of like pull into the track and hop out, Roz sees that Cadmus is still standing on the sidelines, and he throws his arms up in the air and he's like, "You did it! You did it!"
Yeah, Raz, when they're getting out, having their victory celebration of him and Ferdinand stepping out of the vehicle, he like takes off. I'm assuming they had helmets, so he takes off his helmet and raises it in the air with his obsidian arm raised to high, like cheering that like upon their victory.
And Cadmus just sort of does like a little dance like to celebrate Roz. And does Ferdinand say anything to Roz or do anything as he hops out of the rocket, and like the whole pit chief kind of like, or the whole pit crew comes over and like they're, you know, clapping him on the back and shaking his hand and like they're checking the rocket, and you guys can hear like the Cavendian Royal Rocket, first place, piloted by Ferdinand Van Shoes.
Then Ferdinand, as he hears his name called, he's like looking at the crew chief, and then like he can see the crew chief is just as fucking blown away as he is. He's like, "Have you ever seen those moves before? Have you ever?" And like the crew chief is just like, "It doesn't matter, buddy, we won. It doesn't matter, buddy, we won." And he's like, "No, we won." And he like walks over to Raz, and he's just like, he lifts his hand in the air, and he's just like, "Let's get his name on the ticket." And then he looks over at the crew chief as they say, "Ferdinand won." He's like, "No, we won. We won."
And so as you guys see, like suddenly there's like these massive cameras that are like, there's massive holographic television screens like 800 feet tall, like floating around the stadium, close-ups of fucking Roz and Ferdinand's face. And what happens?
And then Ferdinand kind of looks at Roz. He's like, I've only won so many matches in my life, but this is one I will never forget. You were good luck. You were good luck. And he just kind of like leans down into him and he like hugs him deeply.
Raz hugs him back and goes, "It wasn't me that was good luck. We were good luck.
And then
Thank you for this. I'll never forget it."
He looks over to his crew chief. He's just like, we need to get him. That suit is his. Yes.
And like as this is happening, like a reporter and a bunch of camera people are like kind of rushing across the thing to speak with Ferdinand, and she's like, Mr. Van Schuth, you just won the opening regards of the Nightona 500, the inaugural race of this track, the very first race that this track has seen. You have that title. How do you feel today?
And then Ferdinand kind of like leans in and he like looks at Raz and he's like kind of like trying to gauge how much Raz wants to be a part of this circus.
Raz is still there, like has his arm on his back, like patting him on the back, going, just still cheering on the win, excitedly.
And then Ferdinand kind of like leans into the reporter's mic and he goes, there are no words. What we achieved today will go down in history, and I just hope I'm here to see us do another victory as stellar as this one.
And the reporter's like, it was absolutely a stellar victory. And she kind of like leans down and like puts the mic near Roz, and she goes, and what's your name? What's the name of the pilot who assisted in this win today?
And then Torn just goes, yes. Ferdinand goes, yes. What is the name of not given?
I'm Prince Raz Vasilievich. I'm the golden monkey of Odessa.
And when he yells that, the fucking crowd loses it. I mean, like, just like cacophonous screaming.
Question: can Grizz hear that like over his stadium?
Oh yeah.
No, for sure.
Like when he does that, he totally just stops in his track and his left eye sort of twitches a little bit. And he just turns around to look at the screen while he's like still halfway out of the stadium, and he goes, motherfucker.
And in the interview, Raz goes, this is a win for Kavinda. This is a win for Delphine. This is a win for Odessa. Our countries, our planets have each other's back when it's necessary. This is a new age.
And everyone's just,
Odessa is strong. Odessa is back. And we are here to help wherever our allies need us.
People are just clapping, going crazy. And at that point, the crew chief stands between Roz and Ferdinand and like lifts one arm up from each of them, like high above. And Cadmus is just like losing his shit. Like Cadmus takes the mic from the reporter and he goes, the money won today by these racers will be donated back into the Kavinda Social Outreach Pavilion. Like, we did this for you, and everyone's just
like, Raz like celebrates, like patting Cadmus on the back, celebrating, jumping up and down next to Philippe.
Or no, it's Ferdinand.
Ferdinand.
Yeah.
And
Ferdinand.
I feel like
Ferdinand and just keeps is just cheering, and when I'm guessing the champagne comes out, he like grabs it and shakes it and like sprays it all over the three of them, cheering it on.
And so up in the skybox while all of this is happening, what is Karina thinking and or doing? Calypso, when she sees that they won, she jumps up and down, claps, very, very, very happy. Where's Torn at emotionally with this? Walk me through that reaction set.
You want to go first, Haley?
Sure. Karina is excited. I mean, it was really great. And Raz obviously did what he set out to do, which was to kind of pull the focus back. And she's very, very pleased at the crowd's reaction to his like proclamation. She's not quite like jumping up and down, but she would have stood up and like clapped, gotten excited.
Yeah, and Torn, upon seeing the victory and just like being in such tense, like he's like soaked through his flight suit because he was so concerned for Raz's safety. But as soon as they get victory, he just kind of like sits down on a couch and like watches the screen in awe. And as Raz is giving his little speech, and he's doing his little bit to sort of like bridge the gap between his own concerns with a Kavinda on Dauphine and Odessa, he's like working through like how much Raz. I think he's like starting to realize that Raz, when he's pushed to his limit, is able to think more clearly, and he's focusing on that more. And the victory, he just kind of like looks around the room, seeing the people who have been applauding, and he kind of says to himself, he's like, I knew he had it in him.
Say that like after everybody leaves, like you guys never saw Grizz, never ran into Grizz, but after Torn and the other security guards meet back up with Cadmus and Calypso and Roz, and Calypso actually tells Roz that he did a really good job and gives him a kiss on the cheek. And she then takes everybody to an old-timey photo shop so they can get 1980s glamour shop photos done.
Peer pressure. Peer pressure.
Yeah, I think Torn's instinct would be to not do it, but if it's peer pressure, he basically always succumbs to that. Okay, so he starts rooting through the box, and is it
1880s or
it's
1980s?
It's 1980s.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, because this is 400 years old for them. So like,
yeah, I think 1980s is a lot better. It comes out in a Polaroid.
Yeah. I mean, it's the most ridiculous.
So because Torn is
we're all dressed like Madonna.
Yes, because Torn has never actually seen. Because Torn doesn't actually know whether or not the 90s or the 80s merged or not, he starts pulling out stuff that makes him look like a fat Terminator from Terminator 2. Like he puts the jacket on and it's too small. The jeans are too small. And then he puts the glasses on and there's like a little glowing red light in it. And he's just like, this feels like me.
Fat guy in a little coat.
Exactly. So he's like starting to put that stuff on.
And like Calypso walks out and her hair's like been teased and like done up in like this massive fucking like just monstrosity of hair, and it's red and purple, and she's got these fucking like she's got this like polka dot pink fucking like bunched up collared shirt with like the sleeves rolled up to the elbows, and then like these fucking like white and black striped overalls that she has like rolled up to her knees, and then she has like disco socks and rollerblades on.
Fashionable. Karina has on mullets were 80s, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, she's got a mullet wig on. And she gets like a sticker like the Bowie lightning bolt on her face.
Nice.
And she will have on rolled up blue jeans and like a neon turtleneck, and then like a neon green like turtleneck, and then like a neon pink vest.
Okay,
like
so she's bright.
Vest. Yeah, she's what?
She's bright.
She is bright. Yeah.
Okay, what about Roz?
So he has a feather earring in along like black jean trench coat. He has like a black t-shirt on that like comes down, and then he has he just looks like one of the Lost Boys.
After he comes out in that, then Cadmus comes out and he's wearing this like chrome black fucking blazer with the sleeves rolled up and like chrome black shiny pants and like fucking feathered leather boots and like this black sort of sequined shirt that's like buttoned halfway down his chest, and his red hair is slicked back, and he's got these black shades on like Torn does, and he like kind of looks out at everybody and like gives the double thumbs up, or the double guns at everybody.
We'll take 1,000,000 pictures.
Yeah, and they do, and I'm sure all of the photos are hilarious.
And I'm sure both of those are beautiful and fine as is.
What are a handful of some of the different things that they do at the theme park?
Well, I promised Bobby I'd ride the tallest roller coaster, so
yeah,
so that
Karina will do that too. I guess if she skydives, she can handle roller coasters.
Ooh, do we get one of those photos? We buy the photo that they take of us with our faces being pulled back from the G-forces.
Yeah, because it's probably a crazy roller coaster.
Yeah, I was actually listening to the first chapter the other day, and Torn describes the roller coaster as several skyscrapers tall.
Oh shit!
So
yeah, we don't breathe for a couple seconds as we're flying that fast with no headgear.
Does Torn go on the roller coasters with them, or is he like a ground guy?
No, I think he'll go with them, kind of like acting like it's begrudgingly, but for duty. But then he ends up really having a good time.
Do they have to get one of those extenders to fasten the belts on him?
No,
because he's not.
He takes up 3 rows. He's like strapped down like flat, like his belly. So like he's got his arms around like the sides because he's just that big.
He's just huge.
He's like the size of a Kodiak bear.
Amazing.
I'm sure Calypso will want to do the grand tour and the whole like sneaking around and skipping lines and stuff. So I think they just have a good time doing that.
Okay.
We definitely ride the Larry Otter rides.
Oh yeah.
Like roughly like probably about 4 or 5 hours like after this. Like they've had a very, very long day between the skydiving and the fencing and the beach and the race and then the photos and going to the amusement park and having a fucking blast. It's roughly probably about 5 p.m. at this point. And Torn, Karina, and Roz all head off towards the Grand Caviar Hotel while Cadmus, Calypso, Officer Damascus, and the others depart in the opposite direction towards the administrator's mansion. Pointing back at Roz, Cadmus yells, "Don't worry about dressing up for the show tonight. The stage crew just wears normal clothes. But, Karina, since you're going to be in the crowd, wear something nice." And, like, slapping her brother on the arm, Calypso shouts, "Cadmus!" And oblivious to the offense, the 14-year-old boy simply shrugs and looks from his sister back to Karina and says, "What? There's a dress code. You too, Torn."
As if I have anything that's considered not nice in my wardrobe.
He's like, "I didn't mean to make any offense. There's a wardrobe." And then he kind of like looks over at Roz and just shrugs.
Roz just shrugs too. He doesn't understand why everyone gets angry all the time.
Torn better wear like jean shorts.
Jean shorts?
One shirt to make a
solidarity.
With the white pocket that comes out the bottom, like the Southern boys do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, where are we going?
Well, you're currently on your way back to the hotel, but Cadmus is so Calypso oversaw the building of the amusement park, but Cadmus is like a play guy. So he had this little theater built, and he's putting on this showing of Macbeth, and like Roz painted a bunch of the set for him. So like that's what we're going into in the finale.
Yeah, I mean, Torn.
Yeah, and that was our like my opening night was in that, and it ended with Cadmus lying in a pool of blood with his 2 bodyguards.
But they were acting.
We were all acting.
Acting.
And Over to Grizz as the three of them walk into the elevator to head up towards their penthouse. It's difficult to maintain a steady pace for Grizz as he stumbles drunkenly down the sidewalks of Norlando on his way back towards the Grand Caviar Hotel. Passing by the cafe he had coffee at this morning, Grizz pulls out a cig stick, leans against a nearby wall, and takes a few long drags before exhaling in a sigh.
He's had at least 12 beers, so he's pretty lit. But mostly he just has to pee really bad, and he's kind of geeked up because he snuck some coke in the toilets. He's like slightly thinking about planning petty revenge on Raz, but he's like, he's just a kid. That'd be shitty.
Oh, no.
But maybe he's just talking to himself about it.
What would he do, like in his mind? Like, what kind of plans is he coming up with to take his petty revenge?
I want. This will be easy. I want to like repair his arm under false pretenses, and I want there to be a trigger word, and it has like something ridiculous, like rhubarb or something, where if I say it, he punches himself in the balls.
Okay. Gazing up towards the setting sun, Grizz locks his eyes onto the great ball of fire. Heliaros gazes back at him, getting sharper by the second. After a few moments, the mechanic blinks hard and looks away, losing the battle. A slight ruckus to the man's right causes him to turn to look to see the homeless man that Grizz had spoken to earlier that morning running down the sidewalk frantically. The man takes one last look over his shoulder before ducking left into the same alleyway he told Grizz belonged to him.
Grizz just kind of mumbles to himself and takes a drag off of his cigarette. He goes, "What the fuck is he up to?" And sort of makes his way towards the alley entrance.
The alley is like pretty much the same as it was just a couple hours ago, though Grizz notices that a few more trash bags have been piled onto the dumpster, or piled near the dumpster. And through his blurry, shifting vision and the sort of like oncoming evening light, Grizz doesn't particularly see anybody. Roll an observation with a -1 difficulty because he has 12 beers in his belly. There's a clear shuffling coming from within the dumpster as the homeless man sort of attempts to hide himself beneath the piles of trash.
Bro, what the hell are you doing?
And a couple seconds pass, and then Grizz sees sort of like the old man's eyes like ascend above some trash bags and look through the crack of the dumpster, and he goes, "Leave me alone, man. Get the fuck out of here."
Why? You good, man? Everything okay? What's your fucking problem?
Are you stupid? Homelessness is a crime. Borough security been looking for me for days, but they're too stupid to catch me. Fucking tourists. This is my world.
So you're living in a dumpster? What are they gonna do? Lock you up?
Oh, what? It's worse than lockup, I say. Might take that if it was offered. You can get a few months of some hot meals, but no. They take us to that social outreach pavilion for re-education. Oh, it's all about learning new safety skills. Seamus, they say, but I'm no guppy. I know better. Few other locals forced onto the streets like me who didn't fit into their little convenient box got picked up, spent a few months in that damn place, and came out completely different people than they were before. No thank you, not me. Tough night till death, I say.
You're describing a re-education camp.
Yeah. It's a social outreach pavilion. You stay away from there.
Yeah, Jesus Christ. Do people know about this?
I mean, everybody does. It's open to the public. There's homeless shelters, and there's the schools for children and elderly communities. And, it's the devil, though.
God, I have to tell everybody else this. This is not good.
You got anything to eat?
Grizz kind of like pats himself and like digs around, and he like reaches into one of his cargo short pockets and he pulls out a bottle of water, and he's like, "This is all I got, man."
Man, I don't want no fucking water. There's water everywhere.
It's not opened.
Not open? All right. Homeless man reaches out and like takes the bottle from Grizz. instead like dumps it into the dumpster along with his other personal belongings. He goes, yeah, can't, and he's like eyeing the alleyway, like the mouth of the alleyway. You can't be too careful out here, guy. Things were better before they got here. You know, I had a family, a house, a business. It's all gone now. My colony was the first to receive offers to move here. $30K for my boat, another $90 for the house. Moved out here to resort to Fina, trained up on some dockport haulers, moving crates on and off ships all day. Fucking apartment they put us in. So expensive, ate up all our savings. Couldn't keep enough money. Started gambling, lost it all. Been running from the man ever since. Hiding out here.
Grizz lights up 2 cigarettes in his mouth and hands him one, and he goes, "Sounds familiar, man. So you're telling me that the government here is, and this shouldn't shock me, but they're up to no good?"
I don't know if they're up to any good or not, but they don't seem to like my culture very much. If you're planning on sticking to the streets, though, I told you before, this spot is mine. I don't know where you can go, but you can't stay here. Just, you see anyone walking around in purple, silver, green armor, you run the opposite direction. You hear me?
Hey, man, I appreciate it. I got a place to go, but you stay safe.
Hey, you got anything else you can spare?
Grizz gives him like $200.
Oh, that's very kind. That's so very kind of you. Thank you very much. What's your name?
Grizz, but Grant, that's my real name. People just call me Grizz.
And from behind Grizz, at the mouth of the alleyway, he hears the familiar voice of, "Well, hey there, Grizz. Just wanted to make sure that was you. What are the chances of running into you all the way out here like this?" When Grizz turns around, he sees Dale, Bert, and Shane all blocking the entrance to the alleyway. 1 second later, Seamus closes the lid to his dumpster, leaving Grizz alone. And Dale's like, "Guess we just some lucky fellas, Bert." Bert's like, "I guess so, Dale." Like walking further into the alleyway towards Grizz, Dale kneels and reaches into a pile of trash to pull out a metal pipe. "Bert and I were wondering if you had a chance to throw away that 10,000 you made earlier." Bert's like, "Be a shame if you had. That was a real solid spread you pulled in." And Shane's like, "We thought maybe if we found you, there was maybe a little bit left. Given all the fun we had up in the stands, you'd be so inclined to share some of it with us." And Bert's like tapping the pipe sort of against the concrete wall, and he goes, "Yeah, you know, three people having a good time. Everyone takes a third. Seems fair to me. What about you, Grizz?" "Oh, I'm sorry. I mean, Grant."
Grizz thinks about it for a second. And he just like looks at him. He's like, "Can you give me a second to think about it, fellas?" And he like puts like a plug of tobacco in his mouth and just starts chewing it.
And Bert's like, "See, Dale, I told you he was a level-headed guy."
And like once he gets enough like juice in his mouth, I want him to like spit it straight in one of their faces and like run. Like he uses it like a distraction.
Okay. And right before he spits, Dale's like, "Glad this didn't have to go the other." And then like Grizz spits and Dale stops. And I'll give you a attack of opportunity because you're surging, but these guys are sort of on Overwatch. So actually, yeah, I'll just say let's roll an initiative because they're ready for anything.
Well, I mean, they definitely did say he's a level-headed guy, right? So
one of them did. There's three of them there. So yeah. I'll say that like two of them are ready and one of them is caught off.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
So let's go ahead and okay. So the order goes Dale, Grizz, then Shane, and then Bert goes last. So as Grizz tries to flee, Dale, I'm going to have him do like a close combat where he sort of just tackles or body checks Grizz. But he fucking misses. So then it is now Grizz's turn to roll a mobility.
Gotcha.
So the Shane, because you didn't get past, Shane is going to throw a fist. And he does 1 damage to Grizz, knocking him backwards. Which then allows Bert to sort of step forward. And he's like, well, ain't that the disappointment of the evening? We were really hoping you'd be a friendly neighbor. And then he swings the metal pipe at Grizz's stomach. It is now Dale's turn, because we've wrapped back around to the beginning of the initiative. And he's like, you know what I got to do now, right? You can't just go making my buddies look like an idiot, Grizz. I really, I said you were a level-headed kind of guy. Why'd you have to go and make me look like an asshole? And then he kicks Grizz, but misses, and it is now Grizz's turn again.
If there's like a trash barrel or something around, I want to try to like run and throw that down and like, yeah, just like kind of get it in their way, I guess.
Okay, roll a mobility.
That's probably one of the better ideas.
All right. So he does sort of make it past Dale and Shane, but Bert is still there. And roll a close combat. Or no, sorry, roll a ranged combat. All right. So as Grizz is sort of like desperately trying to flee this area, he does successfully manage to grab a hold of like sort of like a small metal trash container and chuck it. Who does he throw it at?
The one that's blocking my way. I want him to like flick it like a frisbee, like Captain America at his head.
Okay. So it definitely hits him. I mean, it does 1 damage. So I mean, it like sort of like knocks this dude back. But Grizz is not free by any means. Shane is going to run up behind him with his fast action, and then punch him in the back of the head, doing 1 more damage. So Grizz is now down to 3. Bert throws the pipe. He misses, though. The pipe clatters against the wall nearby. It is now Dale's turn. Dale runs up behind Grizz, and he's like, just give us the winnings, man. Don't make us hurt you anymore. And after he yells that, it is now Grizz's turn, and he's basically sort of got like a good ways to go to get out of this alley. All right. So then he's got a pretty good lead. Let's go ahead and say that these guys now have to try to catch up to him. He fails. He fails. He fails as well. So Grizz is now sort of at the mouth of the alleyway. Roll 1 more mobility for me. Roll your panic.
Let's see.
Well, Grizz almost makes it.
God damn.
But he freezes. And right at the mouth of the alleyway, the reason why he freezes is because roughly about 150 yards to his left, he sees that there is a troop of 6 Kavindian people-cleaning soldiers dressed in silver, purple, and green armor walking in his direction. And he remembers what the guy said, what the homeless man said. And in that moment of hesitation, Grizz feels the hand of one of the men just sort of descend around his mouth and yank him back into the darkness of the alleyway, where he is pummeled, punched, kicked, and gang stomped into unconsciousness.
Damn.
Only an hour later in the penthouse of the Grand Carvier Hotel, Karina, now dressed in a black fitted pantsuit, receives the ding that alerts the princess to a short-range comm message on her sliver. Is she in her bedroom? Can Roz and Torn hear this communication? And what does Karina do when she receives it?
She'd be in her bedroom, so they wouldn't be able to hear, and she'll open it.
Okay. Upon answering the message, Karina sees the holographic image of Governor Reaching Eye. When he sees Karina, the governor says, "Hello, Princess. Good evening to you. I hope it's okay that I reached out directly to your private comm. My end of the line is secure as well."
Yes, it's absolutely okay.
Good. I'm glad it is no offense. I've received reports that you and Prince Raz were able to take in some of the more savory and exciting venues that Govinda has brought to our offering today. I heard about his race. It is such wonderful news. I'm curious, how are the pair of you finding Resort Afina? The royal children of Odessa are enjoying their trip so far, I hope.
Yes, it's wonderful to be here. It's very interesting to see what I assume are a lot of the changes that have been made.
Good. Delphine has for so long been a place of solace and calm for the leadership of Odessa. I'm glad to hear that even now, with how drastically our world has been changed and evolved by the rulership of Govinda, that you can continue to feel the same as your previous generations. I was hoping that the pair of us could meet soon. Your brother and the pilot are, of course, invited. There are a few things I'd like to discuss with the Odessan royal children without outer influences and prying eyes. Nothing toward, mind you. Simply the business of an old man who feels nostalgic for a life he no longer leads.
I think that we can absolutely arrange something like that. I would appreciate that as well.
Wonderful. I believe that for you to truly see Delphine, it's best if observed through the eyes of a local. The administrator planned a quality informative tour for the new advancements in infrastructure that you experienced yesterday, and I believe in that he succeeded, but after our visit to Coral Cove, the elder there was very impressed with the pair of you. She told me directly that you reminded her of Lady Marquitha and one day would honor your planet in the future, and the children loved Raz so much that they were talking about his return. Among a return to that colony, I'd also like to take the pair of you to the Kestrel ice caps, the Great Swirl, Poseidon Pond, and Poseidon Pond. The flying silverfish there are unforgettable during sunset, I assure you.
That sounds wonderful. I would be honored.
Good. I've dispatched one of my personal trusted envoys to deliver the location of our meeting in person. She will be waiting for you underneath the 8th lamplight on Crichton Row in the borough of Yorami for the next hour. Regardless of the security of our personal communication devices, I find that a face-to-face meeting is always safest.
That makes a lot of sense.
Where I'd like to meet you tomorrow is... where I would like to meet you, your brother, and the pilot tomorrow is personal, private location, shared only by my family, with those we trust. Lady Marquitha was the last outsider to visit, and nothing against the Muir family. I believe that their goals are altruistic and that they believe what they're doing here truly is in the best interest of the people, but Odessa strong.
Karina will kind of inhale at that, and she is pleased to hear this because he had hinted at it, but they hadn't been able to actually have a conversation about it. So she will say Odessa strong.
Thank you for your discourse, Princess. I look forward to the time I get to spend with you and your brother tomorrow. Good evening, and may the tide carry you safely into dreams.
Thank you. I look forward to it as well.
And then it's like, ba-ding! And before she goes to meet with that person, over in Torn's private bedroom, always surprised that someone's taken the time to send him a personal message, Torn turns on the long-com machine and puts his crypto code and sees that the message sent to him is listed along the same encrypted code lines he's received from Odessa in the past, alerting him to the fact that this message is from Vasily. Commander Torn, I hope this message finds you well. The simple act of receiving it this far into the door tells me that you have done exactly what you promised when we first discussed this mission. You have kept my Raz and my Karina safe and delivered Bobby to his destination on Kavina. Soon your time on Delphine will end, bringing this diplomatic tour to the end along with it. Where you stand now, your future looks very bright. This provisional special assignment I have quartered you away from the USOM ends when you return here with the children. Within a month from arrival, you will be expected to return to your post on Givala within the USOM. However, know this, Commander. I take care of the people who take care of my family. I am prepared to file a permanent change of post for you, if you so wish it. It would come with a promotion, along with the complete transition for you out of the USOM into the service of the Odessan private military. This post would come with an Odessan citizenship and an elevation to Odessan Naval Command. Your USOM record is spotless, and you have carried that record into your employment for Odessa. Well, you were not born Odessan, and so I will understand if this offer weighs heavily on you. I do not expect an answer to this message. Take your time. We will speak when you arrive. Good day, Commander.
Torn, after hearing it, solemnly closes the comm, and he kind of like looks out of his room to where he knows Raz and Karina will be, and he just kind of thinks. And then as he's like looking out of his room, he kind of like looks across the living room. They're all in the same suite, right?
Yeah.
But like in their own rooms. He looks across and he sees Grizz's door is still in the state they left it that morning. And he's just like, where is he?
And so after they've all three of them have gotten dressed for the show, for Cadmus's show for Macbeth to go to the thing, and they all kind of meet out in the central area, what does everybody say to each other?
I think Torn would immediately like respond to Karina's dress and just be like, "Oh, I think this is a good look on you."
Thank you. I like your suit.
He just kind of like fluffs his lapel a little bit, and he's just like, "Yeah, they can cover a whale quite well, can't they?"
Torn, if I'm going to be completely honest with you, I do think that I need some time this evening to process everything that happened earlier. If you don't mind, I think like some alone time before I set out for the theater.
Yeah, and Torn kind of just nods, and he makes he like searches his mind for like the right thing to say, or what he feels like might be the right thing to say. And he just kind of like nods, and he looks down at the ground, and he goes, "You know, often it's hard to know what to say or think after gaining intel, but I think the one thing that you're most equipped to do is decide how to move forward with the information you're given. Please take as much time as you need. If you don't want to go this evening, make that a priority. You come first." And he kind of like leaves her with that.
Yeah, she'll say thank you for understanding. I'm happy to meet you all there. I do know that how excited Raz is to support his friend.
And then he kind of like looks around. He's like, "Where is that? Where the hell is he?"
It's just missing.
Come out. You guys see Roz come out of his bedroom, and what is he wearing?
He's wearing one of those all blackout suits, like the spandex that cover all the way up to the heads, that he could move around to the back of the in the back of things. But he has the Delphine traditional footwear, so he's in an all blackout suit, and then on his feet are flip flops.
Does it cover his head, or like his hair?
Yeah, it like comes up over his.
He's got it all the way on.
Just his face.
Yeah.
It's just his face and his
You
feet.
just see his glasses sitting on top of an all black mask and body suit, and he's like, "Hey guys, how do I look?"
As soon as Torn sees him, he like presses his pointer and his thumb into his eyes, and he's just like jamming them in there, and he's like, okay, so you just won first place in a death fill race, and I get it. You don't want to show your face. You don't want the attention, but Raz, no.
Well, I'm a stagehand tonight, so I have to not make any impression on the audience because I don't want to take them out of the scenes. So
is this a self-imposed outfit, or did they give this to you?
Exactly, like, and then like Torn just like following in the lead. Korean is doing. It's like, did you even talk to the stage manager? Why are you wearing this?
Okay, fine. And he goes back in and puts on his outfit from the first night they were there with his like black, his super cool looking black dress coat and his capri black pants and then of course he still has the flip flops and the bodysuit on underneath, so it's just black on black, and then he takes off the mask part, so it's just hanging down. He's like, "Is this better?" That way, when they tell me I have to wear the blackout outfit, I've already got it.
I think that is more appropriate to walk to the venue in.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
I didn't really think about how it would look walking through normal places.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, I think you do better when others do their thinking for you, huh?
Oh. Kind of mean.
Jesus.
So
Warren's like ego is exploded because of that fucking message that he got. He's just like,
No, it's. I think you guys are misinterpreting it because he's trying to gain the Bobby level sarcasm with Raz. Like that's what he's aiming for.
well, it went over Karina's head. She was like,
It went
Good. I mean,
it definitely went over Raz's head. Raz
we
was
should
like,
definitely use that.
super mean. Okay.
just like look at each other.
And Torn's like, no. Like
He starts chuckling. He's just like, I have to work on this.
So walk me through Torn and Raz heading out.
Yeah, Torn would definitely wants to corner Raz and just be like, I guess it paid off, right? You just placed first in a tournament. Wait, what do we call those? What do they call those in racing? The heats, like the series. They're called series, right?
Series, yeah.
Yeah, he's like, you placed first in the first race of a series with a pilot who has never flown that course before. How'd you do that?
Well, no one had flown that course before. So what's even better is we set our names down in history as the first winners on this course, on this planet.
And Torn just kind of like nods, and he's just like, I knew it. I knew you had it in you. I knew it.
Well, it helped having Ferdinand there because he really did a lot of the first lap when we really pulled that big lead ahead.
Yeah,
and
your lead never broke. Broke.
He just had me rely on my skills that I picked up in school. So I just focused on taking out the enemies and working with my team to make sure that everyone was that we were safe and that no one else could win. And I told him that that's what you told me, and that's what we had to do. So that's all I did. Oh, and then he let me drive the last bit of the third lap. So I got to pull in the vehicle when we really kicked up the speed to finish.
And Torn starts like geeking out. He's like, I saw those last turns. That they were incredible. I'm surprised you didn't blow up the course, blow up the vehicle, blow up the lead, but I'm impressed you did. And he's like tearing up as he talks, as he's like babbling, and he kind of like leans down. And he's just like, Raz, I'm glad we met. I'm glad we found you. I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad to be a part of this mission with you. And he just kind of like hugs him.
And Raz not sure if he's ever been hugged by Torn, or many of the people in this group, is just like lifted off his feet by Torn and sort of like raises his arms and just sort of like can barely reach Torn's sides with his fingertips because of how big he is. So
And then as Torn hugs him, he puts him down, and he deftly rips the flight patch back and puts it in his pocket.
Oh yeah, I should have given you that back.
He's like, yeah, without this, we get in a lot of trouble. And he just kind of looks over at Karina and he laughs.
Karina will just say, like, I hope you guys have get some good seats and save me one.
And then
Yeah, definitely.
Torn makes the attempt to linger a little bit and lets Raz like move out of the room first.
Raz didn't get that memo, so he's standing there awkwardly, like, "Are we not going?"
And then
are you?
Torn puts his big ass hand on Raz and he just kind of like pushes him out of the door. And he's just like,
okay, goodbye, Karina. I guess I'm leaving. I'll see you at the show. Have fun. I'm excited to see how you react. Bye.
Bye.
And then as Raz gets pushed out of the way and he does his thing, Torn just kind of like solemnly looks at Karina and he's like, listen, I know the world weighs heavy on you now, but know that I'm always in your corner, no matter what you need, no matter in what way, and take as much time as you need. And he just kind of moves away.
Wow, she's touched. She says, thank you. See you soon.
Okay. So with that, we will end tonight.